Hello, welcome back to JJ's Bakehouse. I'm Ginny, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make Swiss meringue buttercream my way. So I used to make it the same way as what everybody else did. I had my cubed butter, I would make my meringue and put it in, and then I would get the same issues as other people have got. Sometimes it would go soupy, sometimes it would split, and it all became extremely frustrating. So I thought there has to be another way around this, so I came up with this simple method, and I hope you really enjoy it, and I hope it stops you from getting all those different issues. So we're going to begin in a strange way with the butter. So I'm going to whip up my butter as if I was doing a regular buttercream here, and this is my only real difference to this method. But it's cold where I am, and I'm really struggling at the moment with melting the, not melting, but keeping this butter soft enough. Now that's room temperature for me at the moment, and it's not going to whip up properly, it's not going to get lovely, fluffy, smooth, and all those things that I want. So instead of blasting it in the microwave where it's going to hit this bit and then this bit and this is going to melt and this isn't, I'm going to take my bowl and I'm going to pop it into my oven for around about a minute. So let's take this and just pop it in. Right, that's in, and what I'm trying to do with that is just make sure that there's a temperature to the bowl. When you've got cold butter like this and you're putting it into a cold metal bowl, it's attracting the cold around the outside, and you're in a vicious circle where it's just not working properly. So what I find with this, I'm not making the bowl so hot that you can barely touch it and it's scalding. I'm just putting a temperature to the outside of that bowl so that it will melt slightly the outside little bits of the butter, but not enough to change the structure of the butter, and we're going to be able to work with it and save you from getting so frustrated. So whilst that's in there, I'll just let you know my ingredients here. So I've got 400 grams of unsalted butter. I always use unsalted. If you'd rather use salted, then you can, but I can really taste that salt and I don't like it. For people that don't actually like having really sweet buttercream, I would more recommend doing half and half, so half salted and half unsalted. I think that way then you get a nice balance, but it's completely down to your own taste and preference. I've got 300 grams of caster sugar, and I've also got 4 separated egg whites, which I weighed because people have asked me, and that is 140 grams. So now we're going to be ready to get going. I'm going to grab this out. Lovely. There we go. So I can touch the outside of the bowl there. It's not so hot that I'm burning myself. And then I'm just going to take this, pop it in, and then start to mix it round slowly to begin with, because those outer bits are going to have melted slightly. But it's all going to sort itself out. It's not going to have melted so much that it's a problem. Right, and as soon as it looks as if you can just bring up the speed. But I'm just trying to incorporate all of that for the moment. It's a little bit wet around the outside, but it's all going to incorporate and come lovely back together. And here we go. Now I've got nice enough butter. So what we're going to do is we're going to put that on now a medium to high speed for the usual, if you're used to my videos, around about 5 minutes to make this white, light and airy. And also this is going to help your buttercream to stay that white colour, because we are making that butter so light, when you add it to the white of the meringue, the two aren't clashing and you haven't got that real yellow butter really fighting with that meringue. So let's give this 5 minutes and I'll be back. We're done. Right, look at this. Look how white that is, and really whipped up. As you can feel now, the temperature of our bowl on the outside has gone back to being cold, but it allowed in the cold weather for that to really whip up. So don't panic if when you put that butter in to start with into the warm bowl, it is a little bit wet. It's not completely wet the whole way through. It's only those outer bits, and it all incorporates together and brings it to this lovely state of butter that we want it in. So now what we need to do, get a bowl, and we're going to transfer all of this lovely whipped up butter. And the colour of that is really what we're looking for. I know I've said before, I really do stress that if you don't have a creaming paddle, they really are the best thing. It stops me having to keep scraping down and scraping down. I can just leave it to it and it does its own thing. So if you don't have one of those, they really are a lifesaver. Right, there's our butter. We don't need this now. So that is going to go to one side until we've made the meringue. And I'm going to go off and wash this bowl. Make sure that when you wash the bowl now, you really do get it completely clean. You don't want any oil in this bowl because the meringues aren't going to work. So let's wash this down and then we'll come back and we'll start on the meringue. Okay, that's all clean. Well, it visibly looks clean. So just in case, I've got some lemon juice and some blue roll or kitchen roll. And I'm just going to squirt a fair bit inside there. And then wipe it around. And this, if you've left any grease, is going to cut right through the grease inside of there. Also, just going to dampen over my balloon whisk there, like that. Anything that you're going to use, this is what I'm going to be using to stir it. Just a little bit of the lemon, and then we're good to go. And that is going to be a surefire way of making sure that there is nothing in there grease-wise, really important. So let's put this back. And we're going to pop in our egg whites and our sugar. And we're going to take that over. I've got a pot of water here. I've only got my water up to this amount here. You don't want the water up so high that it's touching the bottom of this, because that's not a steam bath then, that's more like boiling. So I'm going to put this over the top. Turn it up because it's just been simmering away there slowly whilst I was making the butter. Give that straight away a good stir in there. Right, I know you're not going to see a lot of what I'm doing here, but it just clumps together in there, and what we're going to do is keep stirring it. You can walk away like I have here for a minute or so, half a minute. But then make sure you stir again. What you don't want, especially towards the later stages with this, what you don't want is the bottom of the egg white to start cooking and then you're stirring it and you've got that cooked egg white coming all the way through. So there are two ways of knowing when this is done. Now a lot of people can do this by touch. If you lift this up now and rub it between your fingers, all you can feel is grit. Got my tea towel. Right, and that's the sugar that's in there, and that's obviously what we're trying to dissolve. Now, the theory with that is that once your egg white has become hot enough, it'll dissolve the sugar, and then you know that it's got to the right temperature, so it's absolutely fine to use. I suppose in today's day and age, where everyone gets a little bit more concerned, I always make sure that I take my temperature of mine just to make sure. So if you've got a candy thermometer, brilliant. I haven't, I've just got a probe which I will put in, and I make sure that mine reaches 70 degrees Celsius. So that way then I know that the egg whites have come to a temperature which is safe and absolutely fine for everybody then. So it can go up quite quickly. Where am I now? Right, I'm only on 26. So this is going to take me probably about 3 or 4 minutes to get it up to where I want it to be. So I will come back to you when it comes up a little bit more, because you don't want to see me just stirring this because it's boring. See you in a moment. Right, okay, I am nearly there. Now as you're going around here, make sure that you're always scraping right around the outside of this bowl. It's really good to use a spatula because you can get into it. The reason being with that is if any of those granules on the side aren't actually dissolved, when you tip out your meringue, that might get stuck in it and then you're going to get grit. That's not going to be very nice. Also, my mixture has, let's have a look at the temperature of this now. My mixture is going fluffy and more translucent and thinner. which you notice. So see, right now that's dissolved, but I'm only at 65. So if I'd have taken it off, I think I would have taken it off a little bit early for my liking. So let's just make sure that I'm happy that I've got there. Yeah, there we go, I'm at 70. So that's ready to come off. There we are. Okay, then I'm going to put this straight onto my mixer there. So if I turn it like that, if I have a look at what you can see, there we go, yeah. So you can see there, it's a lot thinner than what it was. It was quite clumpy to start with. It's ever so fluffy already. And it's all dissolved. So up around the sides, there's nothing around the sides that's going to be of concern. Right, let's put this onto the mixer. You could have done this in an extra bowl and transferred. Because I've got a metal bowl, it's just easier. I just prefer doing it all on the one. Right, I'm going to add a teaspoon of cream of tartar to this, just to make sure that it really stiffens up the way I want it to. Then put this on. Now meringue doesn't like to be attacked really fast to start with. So we start slowly on the slowest speed that you've got, and you just let it go round, let that cream of tartar dissolve inside. If you don't have cream of tartar, I've heard you can use lemon juice. If you have a little Google, it'll tell you what the alternative to using cream of tartar is. I don't actually know the specific amounts because I always use the cream of tartar. Right, so now that's had about 30 seconds and I'll take it up another one. The reason we're doing this is this can affect the way that it does rise up, so and stiffen. And then another, and then we're going to leave it there for around about 2 minutes, and then we're going to take it to its highest power. So I'm going to come back to you because it all gets very noisy in about 2 minutes, and then we'll turn it up higher and then come back when it's finished. Right. It's time to turn it right up. So it's looking lovely and fluffy at the moment. I'm not going to do that right on camera now. I'm going to turn it up to the highest speed and leave it. And I'm actually going to take the timings for you so that you know exactly how long this last part takes. I'll be back to you when we've got meringue. Okay. So this took me 3 minutes. Now obviously it all depends on what your mixer is as well, but just to let you know the state we get it to. Oh look, it's staying there, so we know that tipping it up is absolutely fine. So now we've got meringue. This is lovely. We've done a really good job on this. Feel the outside of your bowl and it's hot and there is still a temperature to it, and obviously we have whipped all this lovely air into this butter, and if we add that now into this, that's where you're going to get soup. So we don't want to do that. We want to leave this well alone and come back to it when it is lovely and cool. If you're in a hurry, pop it into a ice bath and it will just crash that temperature down quite quickly. But I'm not. I'm going to have a cup of tea. I'm going to wait for it to cool, and then I'm going to put in my butter. So just make sure around the outsides, any crispy bits on here, any that were up at the top that you didn't get in, that you scoop those and just take them off. So I do this. If you'd have done it in a separate bowl, you wouldn't have had an issue. But just around the outside there gently, you can just, I've got a couple of bits where it's just chucked it up, and because the outside of the bowl is cold at the top, it's just gathered up. So I've just taken that and removed it, just in case. Probably won't make any difference, but I'd hate to think there were gritty bits in my Swiss meringue. So that's it. Time for tea. I'll be back. Right, lovely and cold. Now, exactly the way we want it. So I left it literally the way you saw. So I'm just gonna give this a whisk for a few seconds. Right. Okay, lovely. Just make sure when you lift it up, it's still doing the very same thing, which it is. If you can turn at all, then just put it on that really high power again. Now it's cooled, and then we'll add the butter. So I'm just going to, it's fine there, but I am just going to give mine a really, really quick blitz on a high speed, just there for around about 30 seconds to a minute. And just to make 100% sure that whilst I've left it, it's not sunk down, and then I'll be back with you and we'll add this butter. Right, it's perfect, absolutely fine. Now, we have made this butter really, really whipped and light, and how the regular version of Swiss meringue goes is that you've got cubes of butter now, and you've got this lovely, light, silky meringue, and you chuck cubes of harder butter into it. Obviously it's not hard, it's room temperature soft, but you can imagine then why that is making the meringue drop, because it's working really hard to take those blocks of butter, little cubes, and soften them down whilst incorporating them, and this is why you get issues with your Swiss meringue. And also you then have to add this butter slowly, little bit by little bit, and it takes ages. So as much as you might think that doing this at the beginning has actually made this such a longer process, it hasn't, because you'll see the way we add this now. We can add this big clumps at a time because it's not having to work hard to do anything. So let's put them down onto a medium speed there, taking parts like that and putting it through. What a mess. And that is just incorporating so simply, no problem. It's not having to work hard. The temperature of this is going to be exactly the same as this because we've left them at room temperature, so you won't have that issue with temperature. I'm making a mess out of this. There we go. Okay, now when you begin to add it, after a while it will start looking like it has gone that slight soupy consistency. In fact, if I show you mine, then instead of just talking about it, if I show you, look, it's kind of looking, see? It's falling. Now that's going to be normal. We are adding fat to the meringue, so don't panic. That is just the way it's going to go. We're going to get so far through, and it's going to almost like curdle and come into buttercream, and it's a lovely process to watch, and you'll see it happen. So don't worry. Right, so we just keep adding this. As soon as it's incorporated, just add some more. It doesn't take 2 minutes to add it in. Keep going. Now it's beginning to turn, and now it's starting to get that buttercream look, which is what we want. It looks lovely. Right, let's get all the rest of this in. Right then, and so, oh, making a mess. See how much simpler this was. That didn't take 2 minutes at all. Look, we have completely silky Swiss meringue buttercream. So just make sure you scrape down, because now at the bottom you've got meringue, and you've also then on the top got a mixture of the two, and you need all of it to be combined. So let's try not to make such a mess. Hold that out there. There we go. Make sure you get right into the bottom, all around the sides. There we go. Give that another go round, and then we are completely done, aside from the mess I've made all over my mixer. Now you could stop it in between hand and not make such a mess, but apparently I don't like to do that. Right, wipe my hands. That's it. I need to add the vanilla, so I'm going to grab my vanilla. This is where we are. Look, beautiful buttercream there, absolutely lovely. So I'm going to grab my vanilla and we will come back and add that. One sec. Right then, let's add this vanilla in. Right, so I'm going to add a teaspoon of vanilla into this one here. And then taste it. So it's really on your taste. You can add a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half, and it tastes. Sometimes people prefer that really more vanilla-y flavour, and others prefer it subtle. Again, it's the same as the salted buttercream thing. Very, very personal choice. So mix that round. Lovely. Now, this is done and it looks absolutely lovely. It's got that real whipped up Swiss meringue. I've shown you how you can do it really easily. Now, I know this is going to sound silly, it's really aerated. It's going to be because we've added the aerated butter, we've added aerated meringue, and it's very, but if I was trying to put this on something now, there's a lot of bubbles in it. So what I like to do now is with my creaming paddle, I like to just pop my creaming paddle on and put this down on a low speed for around about 2 or 3 minutes, and that gentleness will just take some of those air bubbles out. So that's a good way of not having it quite so bubbly. Also, as you've probably seen on my other videos as well, there are ways of adding colours to this. So I always prefer to add my colours to my butter. So as you will see in my black and my red, if you wanted to add those, what we do with that is we add the black or the red or navies or whatever deep colour to the butter, and we melt that first. And you'll see that in my other tutorials, and then we go through this very same process. The same with my cream cheese, it happens in this very same process. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you've seen that you don't need to add that cubed butter. And it's that cubed butter and the difference in structures and the difference in the temperatures which is causing a problem with Swiss meringue buttercream. So I will pipe this onto some cakes in a moment so you can see how lovely it pipes. Right, so we have our Swiss meringue. I whipped mine up just that last little bit, like I said, and to try and get those little bits of air out. Let's see how it pipes. So I've just got some lemon cupcakes here, and here we are. Lovely, really, really beautiful there. So silky. That's the thing about Swiss meringue, it takes that little bit longer, but it really is so silky soft. And there we are. So that, I messed that one up, didn't I? Right, let's look at this one. That is our Swiss meringue piped buttercream. I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial. I hope that in future you won't have so many issues with your Swiss meringue buttercream and you enjoy my method, and I will see you soon. You take care. Bye bye.